Is Rachel Maddow a left alarmist pariah? Let's go into it. She just posted something. Well, let's put it this way. She did something, and MSNBC posted it in a certain way. I'll get into the details in a minute. I'm Darren Monroe. I used to work on Kamala Harris's campaign, the engagement committee, one of tens of thousands. I have 30 years marketing branding experience in movie and films, and used to do the marketing here in Chicago for Jay-Z, Eminem, Limp Bizkit, Nelly Furtado, The Roots, and a whole lot of big names, whatever. And used to work for Universal, DreamWorks, Sony, iHeartMedia, so on. But for 20 years, I've been running my own online business, running and helping people market and brand themselves. But what I'm about to say is sponsored by my Clarity Group, which is in the description on the homepage. Join my Clarity Group so you can get clear. Let me point out some very important things, and I'm being fully transparent about this, okay? So let's be real with it. Just hang in there with me. Watch this to the end because you're going to want to hear this. Here's the thing. MSNBC, within the last 24 hours, posted on TikTok a piece of Rachel Maddow talking about authoritarianism. And there's a couple of issues I have with this. The first one is they only got a piece of it. You know, when Rachel does one of these things, it's very long and it's detailed. And I give her credit for that. But they took the authoritarianism part and put that out there. So in other words, they created alarmism. So that's part one I got a problem with. Alarmism, because this alarmism just takes on a word of its own. If you say it is, it is. There used to be a saying by Gil Scott-Heron. He said, peace is not the absence of war, it's the absence of rumors of war. When you start talking words and moving in that direction, the universe starts following and people start listening, and people who trust Rachel, who trust MSNBC, start going there. We say, well, there's people who don't trust him. Good, very good. Understand this. They're trying to put you in an alarmist state. The other issue that's there is that there are alarmist creators who are out there supporting that. Because when I looked under who shared that information, reposted it, there were several people that I connect with, that some of which I like, and I just was really saddened that they fell for that, particularly black folks. Let's go into what she said. She said that, with the way ICE is treating people, there's a sense of dictatorship. There is dictatorship from Donald Trump. Well, first of all, if Donald Trump is really a dictator, you're in a jail or dead right now. So I don't think he's a real dictator. I'm not going to let that power of those words weigh into my soul and my belief, and you shouldn't neither. Fuck that. The whole idea is this guy is attempting to do these things. He is not effective at doing it 100%. For those who say, but wait a minute, Darren, he's grabbing people and putting brown people, particularly white people who are liberals. I want to talk to you for a moment. Do you realize for the last 160 years, the way that ICE is treating brown people is exactly how black people been treated? Are you aware of how and what we've been going through? Well, you are now. You are now. What I'm trying to get you to understand, mama, is that this is not, Donald Trump does not bring racism, prejudice, misogyny, homophobia, xenophobia. He reveals it. It was already here. In the words of Childish Gambino, this is America. This is the way it's been. And now you get to see it highlighted in the news more so than ever. Who was that? Will Smith. He said racism isn't getting worse, it's getting recorded. It's always been here. And now the brown people get to see how they're treated. And the closest that white women come to it now is in the protests when they get shoved around and then you get now you know. Now you know. And that's why many black people wanted to take the back seat for a minute. They'll gladly promote your video, but they ain't gonna be in your video as much because we know that fight. And we know that what's happening. And I know what some of you are going to say, but Darren, the black people aren't being deported. Yes, I've been told that many times. And my answer to that is, dear little white people, dear little brown people who might tell me this, Do you realize, one, that there are Caribbean Americans and Americans from Africa who are not descended from enslaved people, but they're first, second, third generation Africans who are also getting deported, who are also getting shot up? So yeah, it's happening. But they're not, treating you like this. Yeah, they were always treating us like this. But Darren, the African Americans who are descended from enslaved people, oh, you're going to love this one. Descended from enslaved people, they're not getting deported. No, they're getting shot. Still, 5 years later, George Floyd walked out. George Floyd, we're striking and we're mad. And we're still having that problem. The bullets are cheaper than a deportation plane. Yeah, this is not breaking news. This is already here. This has already been happening. They just targeted more aggressively the browns than they do the blacks. Because after a while, they figured out if we do this to blacks so many times, it's going to become old news and the news will move on to something else. And they did. They covered it, but it's kind of like, okay, yet again. Then they moved on to the browns, and now everybody, you can't do this to the browns. I'm like, yeah, you can't do this. And nobody, notice they always talk about the browns, but very seldom they don't talk about the Caribbeans, the Latin Africans, the Africans from Africa. And what black people are communicating back to them, black people are saying, listen, we told you. We love you, but we told you. Will you listen now going forward? This is the America we've been in. Because there have been racist white people who've been telling you you're different. And now you realize, motherfucker, you're not. Going back to Rachel Maddow and MSNBC, they create this alarmism that he's a dictator. But I won't accept that, and you shouldn't either, because dictators would have Rachel in jail and MSNBC people in jail. He's suing. Could he have them in jail? Maybe. But understand this. The form of, and here's where I'm going with this, the form of a dictatorship starts here. We ain't accepting it. We didn't accept it from the British. What makes you think we're accepting it from Donald Trump? It's here. It's here. When a country doesn't accept it, they don't accept it. You can't suppress us. But the biggest thing that Trump does is work through words. That's why every Tuesday in my Clarity group, I tell people about what is called narrative warfare. It is a psychological probe to mind you. And if you realize it's not just Epstein, all this time, it's been everything else. The $400 million plane, the alligator Alcatraz. I may or may not pardon Diddy. I may or may not, but actually did bomb Iran. It is a psychological mind on this country. Understand this. If you ever seen the movie The Secret, look it up. It's all up on YouTube. Go look it up. What did Bob Proctor say? My former mentor, by the way, may he rest in peace. He said, thoughts and words become things. And it sounds silly, but thoughts and words become things. No, it's real. Because it's happened in your life where you sat there and thought about something negative or positive, and it happened in your life. You said things into existence. If we put into existence this man is a dictator, there are people who believe it. The biggest, most wealthiest thing Donald Trump has, and I say this in every video I have, the biggest, most wealthiest thing he has is not his money. It's his ability to rent free space into the minds of the people who hate him. And he learned that. He learned that from Rush Limbaugh. He learned that from Howard Stern. That's how they built that. Rogan built that. They built it off of getting more people to dislike and listen to them than they did people who loved them. And they found that out. They're like, the people who hate you more are listening even more. I said this to black people 30, 40 years ago. I said, if you hate Rush Limbaugh, why are you listening to this guy? I don't listen to people I'm not around. One of the things I love about Bob Proctor, may he rest in peace, he said, right in front of me in 2010, I went to Arizona for the first time ever, okay? Scottsdale, Arizona. And he has these events, right? Apparently this is a regular thing he used to do in Scottsdale. So I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona. This was really an interesting event because you had Les Brown there. You had some really interesting people that were there. And some of which aren't even there any longer, but they were really cool people. They were just really good people. And he said, someone asked him, how do you deal with difficult people? He said, I don't know. I'm not around people I don't want to be around. If I have told you you're being difficult, if I tried to work with you and you're not going to change that, I'm going to get away from you. I'm not around difficult people. Think about what I said. Not around. So why are you around Rush Limbaugh, Howard Stern, if you don't like them? Why are you around alarmists? Listen to me now. Why are you around alarmists if you don't like what they're saying? The problem with Rachel Maddow is that she's on a station that's promoting alarmism more than armism. And they took a piece out of context of what she said and put the whole thing on there. And what I'm trying to tell you to do, not only just not listen, but recognize what is happening. Because if you call this man a dictator, yet you walk around free, there's something wrong. If you're saying, oh, now ICE is doing this, so this is dictatorship, and ignore the fact that black people have been suffering under this for 160 years, something's wrong. If you have the power on MSNBC and claim that Joy Reid is your motherfucking friend, and you did not stand up for it, and the only person who called you out was Keith Olbermann, look it up, something's wrong. Keith Olbermann also pointed out how when he had power at MSNBC, he fought for Rachel. And he felt like, this is what he said, he felt like Rachel should have fought for Joy and could have said, hey, if you take Joy away, or any of these other people, if you take them away, I'm gone too. And MSNBC would have listened. Because Rachel is their base, is their numbers. Is the boss of that now. Their numbers are incredible. But she didn't do that. And now she's telling people that Donald Trump is a dictator. And the example she's giving is ICE. The same treatment of brown people that's been happening to black people all along. Where we don't get deported, the black people get unalived. And how they're violating all of this, that, and the other. Yeah, they've been violating it for some time. It wasn't ICE. It was police. Okay? Police. Okay? It wasn't ICE. It was police. Police. Okay? And what we're trying to really get into the point here is, one, stop taking the shape of listening to alarmism. Two, if you're going to call it something, let's call it what it's been all along. Terrorism happening domestically by the ICE and the other ICE, the POL ICE. And let's open up a little more about this. If thoughts become things, let's talk about the words you shape to create a dictator in the minds of the people who want to resist. The biggest trick the devil ever pulls was convincing you that he was convincing you. Think about that. Mic drop. Well, here's the mic, but you know what I mean. I'm trying to tell you. The power that we're battling is not the power of physicality. It's the power of our words, our projection. And the most dangerous part about this from the left is people who have influence, like Rachel, words taking on dictatorship, MSNBC projecting that. And by the way, the way they projected on TikTok, they ended it right there. That's why we know it was alarmism. It's a dictator. It's the end. Bah. And then people I know, some of which black, are sitting there sharing that bullshit. They need to stop. They need to stop. They need to stop. Because this man doesn't get to be a dictator unless we let him. But he is. He's doing all the stuff. No, he doesn't get to be a dictator unless we let him. The only way we lose is if we mentally capitulate and don't resist. You know what Kamala Harris said? You might remember what she said since she came back with her book. She said, everything I said was going to be true. The one thing I did not anticipate was the capitulation. Are you an active, willing person in this? That's like tying an elephant to a plastic chair. You may have seen those pictures online. Look them up. Elephant tied to plastic chair. Their mind is so conditioned that they think the chair holds them, when all they need to just move their trunk and flip it away. That's where we're at. We got a plastic chair, a paper king, a piss poor pauper who can't even go into anything, and the biggest control he has. It's not in the courts, because when you look at his court record, he's 16 and 108. Why is it that the left alarmists aren't talking about that? Why is it that Rachel Maddow ain't talking about that? That's real. Realer than real deal Holyfield. Here's the thing. What we project is the most powerful thing, and Donald Trump knows that. I respect Trump's power. What he did with Iran to overshadow King's Day of 10 million people around this country striking, and he made that disappear in a matter of days with I might bomb Iran. I kind of going to bomb Iran. I may bomb Iran. I bombed Iran. I bombed Iran well. This is the way I bombed Iran. You might think that's just a bunch of silliness. That was a masterful mindset play to mind fuck the people. You better recognize a bad motherfucker when you see him. He's an idiot, but he's an idiot savant. You know, really. And what I'm saying to you is, do not let other people's alarmist words take on shape. Let's not act like this hadn't been happening with ICE. It's been not happening with ICE. It's been happening with POL-ICE. P-O-L ICE. Police. And they've been doing this shit for a very long time. 160 years. They took off the hoods and put on badges. Hello. You know, in my clarity group, I really did just that. I had a moment of clarity with people. There's one guy, he was talking about how racist he discovered his area was, and he lived in a town and everything, and he said, man, as soon as Obama became president, I saw more burning crosses than ever. I said, yeah. Isn't it interesting? Before Obama, where were those crosses? Where was the lighter fluid? They were always there. You just never saw them burning. What Obama did, just as much as Trump did, that's one thing they got in common. They revealed, they didn't bring racism, they revealed it. And for the liberal white America, I said this in my previous video. Look at my last 10, 20 videos, y'all. I said this in my previous video. I said, listen, Donald Trump is revealing the racism in America. He's not bringing it. He's revealing the homosexual, the homophobia, the xenophobia, the misogyny, prejudice. He's revealing that, and it takes on another shape when you think about it. He's not only revealing that, but he's also created a codification of this to bring it forth. And what we have to do before we even go, it's not even about taking on MAGA. You notice I hardly ever mention MAGA. I don't. Because the problem we have is at home. How can we go out into the neighborhood when we got something to chop up at our own kitchen table? Liberals. we got a white liberal, non-black liberal. And when I say I don't want to just put the whites out there neither, because there were some of you that were brown, whether it's Latino or Asian or Arab, who had a problem voting for Kamala. You had a problem voting for her. You had a problem sticking by her, which is, hey, I'm not in my feelings about it, but I do want to acknowledge that problem, and I think you should too. The alarmism on the left is a problem, but also arming Donald Trump with the idea that he's a dictator when he's not and he doesn't have that power yet, and we're still here to fight back, and thoughts and words become things, and arming the panic instead of the assessment of what to do. That's why I created a clarity group. I couldn't say this on social media. I tried, and they started flagging me because they're afraid too of Donald Trump. The other thing I want you to finally grasp onto this is that, again, this is not this is not new. This has been happening to black people descended from an enslaved people. And, I read a book by Assata Shakur. Look her up. Assata Shakur. And she told a story of her childhood in the South. I think it might have been the Carolinas somewhere. And her mother had a plan to have her ride all the rides with her mom in a whites-only amusement park. Here's how they did it. She went in there, started speaking Spanish, went off, and they said, okay, you can go into the park. So they rode all the rides. People were looking at them, but they didn't understand why they got a chance to ride those rides, because they pretended they were Puerto Ricans. They'll let the Puerto Ricans ride, but they wouldn't let the blacks. Now, my Puerto Rican brothers and sisters, I'm saying this to you for this reason. You know damn well, just as much as Mexicans, just as much as Latin Americans, just as much as Africans from Africa and Caribbeans, y'all know damn well there have been moments when whites said you were different. You're not like the others. They fed you that bull stuff. And some of y'all ate it up. Not all of you, some of y'all knew what was going on. Hey! But some of y'all ate that up, and you know it. Latin Americans have told me, they said, dude, we got our own Latin American whites who think that they're Cuban Americans, some of you had that issue, and they told you the lie. And now you realize through ICE, also known by African Americans descended from an enslaved people as Police, Police, that this was not a descendant of an enslaved black people thing, like the racist whites who told you that, but this was a everybody thing. Act accordingly now. Get closer with the people of color. Connect with, the descendant from enslaved people, us. But also understand that at any moment, they could drop that bullshit and play nice and remove the ice while they're still messing with the black people descended from an enslaved people with the pole ice. Will that suffice? Take your chances, roll the dice. Listen to my last 10, 20 videos. Look at my playlist. Did I earn your subscription? Oh, by the way, make sure again that you get in my clarity group, because we some bad motherfuckers. We 300 strong. 300! Oh. No, for real. Get in there. Hear what the truth is that they won't let me tell you about the election, about what's going on with the grifting Trump's doing, about the 8 different investigations that are happening, about what's really happening with the secret world of Epstein, and it's much bigger than you could ever imagine. I got reports coming out this weekend. You'll love it and understand it with clarity. I take you from chaos to clarity. That's what this group is about. So you're not sitting there watching this bull and freaking out. Best compliment I ever got in my life, one of them was, I help remove the terror from people's hearts. And if I do that with here, thank you. But there's some deeper stuff going on that you should probably hear and see about. God bless you, y'all, and God bless America.